Please give me a sign.
We're gonna wait till Miss Capster comes back. She's gonna figure out her plan.
We're gonna take the first 5 minutes to play on the playground and in small groups use the restroom. We're not all gonna go use the restroom all at once.
15 minutes so that you're all in the cave at the same time and you'll pass each other in different spots. So. Okay. Now is a good time to go use the restroom.
Does anybody gotta go?
Where is it? No.
I should probably.
Try to be really good listeners so I don't have to shout or reach the back ones. I want to make sure everybody can hear what I'm saying when we're down in the cave especially. And when we stop at various places, I know it seems like a good time to talk, but it's a good time to be quiet so that you can hear me. Because when we're stopping somewhere, it's because I have something I want to tell you about the cave system around us. Have any of you been in a cave before? Yes. Oh, lots of you. Okay, great. Have any of you been to our cave? All right. So hopefully it'll be something new. Has it been a while, or were you just
Third grade, I think.
All right. Well, hopefully there'll be some new things to see or things that you don't quite remember in the same way. A few rules before we go down into the cave. We don't allow any food or beverage or even chewing gum. So if you do have that, please spit it in the trash can there before we head down. We do have a natural cave environment, and we don't like to contaminate that by bringing things into the cave system other than just ourselves. If you have glasses, hats, phones, that sort of thing, make sure you hang on to them tight. We will be looking down at the waterfall from a bridge, and if you happen to drop something over that, we will not get it back. So be sure to hold on to your possession when we get to that point. Also take a look down at your shoelaces, make sure they're tied tight. We have a lot of stairs in the cave.
I don't have shoelaces.
Well, that's even better. Lots of stairs there, and we've got high humidity, so there's dripping water, you're likely to get wet. That can also make the pathways a little bit slippery in the staircases, so make sure you use the handrails where they're available. That would be our safest way to be down in the cave. Also, we want to protect the cave itself. This is a stalactite that broke off in the last room of the cave, so this tells us a couple things. One, they're pretty fragile, right? But also the oil on our skin does not mix well with the water that's traveling down these formations, and you can actually slow or stop the growth of them. So please don't touch cave walls or formations, but if you want to get it out of your system now, you can touch this one as I go on by here.
And there's a difference between a living cave and a dead cave, right?
Right. There will be spots in the cave where there are formations that don't have water traveling down them, and that just means they're dormant. Maybe later in the year, different time of the year, water will pass over those, but we do have an active cave, so there's water actively passing through there, and formations are continuing to grow. So, but you can feel that it's really hard, this mineral here. It may look like mud in places down in the cave, but it is actually very hard, like stone.
So don't accidentally pick it.
Right, yeah, do your best to keep your hands and feet to yourselves down there. Other than that, if you have, for any reason, if you need to leave the cave on our tour, please let me know. I want to make sure I come back up with 13, just as well as heading down there with 13, so let me know when I can radio up to bring you back up and out. Okay?
May I play the Indiana Jones theme song as we enter the cave?
Just in this little stairway if you must. And then when we get down to the river, I'll have things I want to tell you. Go ahead.
Might not even have data there.
I don't know. I'm sure someone would be kind of embarrassed if they did lose it, so they might kind of keep it to themselves. I would imagine a few have gone down into the waterfall there. Any other questions for me before we head down in there? All right. Please stay behind me as we're on the tour, and of course there's no running and that sort of thing. And just do your best to be good listeners, all right? Fantastic. Well, let's head down in there. Lights should be on.
Yeah, I should probably get a drink too.
Just for a little bit with Wyatt. Is this just the kind of stuff on your phone?
Are you for sure?
Yeah.
Very epic. Just stay back from the staircase or the stairs here. I'm just gonna. All right, and the music, perfect. Perfect timing. Very good. All right, so I just want to tell you a little bit about the history of the cave here. Our cave was actually discovered in 1924, and it was discovered by 3 pigs. The farmer who was operating the land up above us here had 3 of his pigs disappear. So he sent his nephews and a hired hand to see if they could figure out where those pigs had gone, and they did successfully track them to a small opening that was about right here, about 2 by 4 feet across at the time, quite a bit smaller, a small sinkhole essentially, and it was sort of filled in with mud. They could actually hear those pigs down in below. The pigs had ended up about 75 feet down in here, about where we reached this first platform. So they had sort of slip-slided their way down in, and were still okay down there as far as they could tell. They knew they'd need some help to see if they could rescue them, so they headed back to town. They got some helpers with lanterns and ropes, and they came back out here and rappelled down into this sinkhole and did rescue those pigs. They sent them back up one at a time, I imagine, with ropes tied around their bellies. Hard to say. And then over the years, word got around that there was something down below these farm fields in southern Minnesota. It wasn't probably just a sinkhole, but perhaps a cave system beyond that. So after a few years, some cave explorers from Decorah, Iowa, just south of us here, got permission to come out and explore the cave, and they really liked what they saw. And then they decided to open it up to the public. So we opened for the public in 1934, and have been giving tours ever since then. So yeah, quite a few years now. A little bit about the geology around us here. This is a limestone cave, and we'll be going through 3 different layers of limestone. This first one up here looks almost man-made, kind of like the foundation of a barn, very stacked in appearance. But this is naturally occurring. This is the Dubuque layer of limestone. We'll very quickly leave that layer and head into the next layer right here, which is the Stewartville layer of limestone. It's sort of characterized by these pock marks, and you'll be seeing that throughout most of the tour here. And then in the last couple of rooms, we'll be in the Prosser layer of limestone, and that's got a little bit more of a rusty kind of color to it. There's more iron content in that limestone, so I'll be sure to point that out to you when we get down there as well. Any questions for me before we head down here? All right. Big staircase here is wet, so again, take your time, please use the handrests, and we'll meet up down here in the bottom. We've got cephalopods, gastropods, maybe you've heard of some of these things, and you'll maybe kind of recognize the modern relative to some of them as well. The cave system itself, these passageways, were of course carved out by water. They were noisy, weren't they? And the cave system itself was carved out pretty somewhere between about 500,000 and 2 million years old. That coincides with this most recent ice age, where there would have been large amounts of water trying to find places to to pass through, and they can find a joint or a fissure here, sort of a crack, and then start to widen it out and carve these passageways. We think that the last time water was passing through these passages in any large way would have been around 12,000 years ago, with the last glacial meltwaters receding from the area. So that's kind of the timeline for the cave passageways. So I mentioned that water carved these passageways out. It is still carving out some of the lower rooms of our cave. You can hear that sort of rush of water in the background down there. We're going to end up down here at the waterfall, and then we'll see the water in the last room of the cave where it does exit the cave. As they come up, we should maybe try to, let's come in this way, because I think they're probably pretty close to head back up the stairs, and then they can get past us a little easier. So what we're going to see down below, I'll just try to find a place out of the drips. I just got dripped on myself. When we head down here, we're first going to get to the wishing well, and that's about a 6-foot deep pool. People did used to throw coins into it, and so we ask that you please don't throw coins in, because of course they can contaminate the water. And then you'll also see the stream as it enters the cave system. It's not a single source stream, it doesn't have a name, but that is the accumulation of meltwater in the area. There we go. So different meltwater and springs in the area form that stream as it then passes through the cave system. So we'll take a look at that, and you can look around down there, and then we're going to continue on down to the waterfall dome room. I'll just stop for a second while they pass by. They're a little noisy. Give everyone a chance to take a look back there. Any questions for me yet? All right, up ahead it does get a little slippery, so please watch your step. Use the handrails, there are some stairs. I'm going to point out a place that has a low-hanging rock so that we don't hit it on our way by, and then you can continue on down to look over the waterfall from there, all right? I'm going to point out some of our first fossils here.
Right there?
There, one there. All right, I just want to point out the first few fossils that we come across here in the cave. You'll look up here, and also right back here, you'll see gastropod fossils. Now, these are basically snails, but 450 million year old snails. And then up here as well, as you pass over, you'll see another one here. So take a look, but watch your heads. There are cephalopods, which are pretty similar. Oh, and also down at your feet there, there's another that is passing by. how's everyone doing with all those stairs we've come up and down? Doing all right so far? Great. Any questions come up yet? No. All right, well, my name is Amy, so if you ever come up with a question, just get my attention as we go along, all right? Okay. So you can see what that looks like, but they didn't do much altering at all. These are the natural passageways that, if you kind of just look at the beautiful gentle curves and think of how the water carved those.
Looks like flash.
All right, I'm gonna stop you here at this formation as well.
Looks like a mountain of flesh on the top there.
It looks like mud. That's why I make sure you have a chance to touch that stalactite upstairs, because it is hard just like that. This mineral, of course, is calcium carbonate. Or calcite that is being carried along with the water and deposited in the formations in this cave after so we do our best not to touch the cave around us. Down at your feet here, you can see that this formation is still working its way into the pathway. It's possible that this will eventually cross the pathway, but it's not going to be in any of our lifetimes. This is a very slow process. So I'll be pointing out some of those things further on as well. So just know that all of the formations in the cave are calcium carbonate or calcite, okay? And they all look a little bit different, but it is still that same mineral. All right, I want to draw your attention up above here. Just wait for everyone to get close to this again. Try to find a place where we're going. Sedimentation that then cause erosion at a little bit different rates, but those are the pathways of ancient rock-body creatures. Very fossil. Also, if you take a look up here, all my flashing, you'll see some more gastropods, snail fossils. See them up there? Pretty good size up there. Somebody had asked earlier if we have any nautilus fossils, and the most similar creature that we have fossilized in the cave here are cephalopods, and they're similar to a nautilus or a squid, essentially. So I'll point a couple of those out as we go along as well. Be sure you're looking up and around you, because of course most of the cave and formations are overhead and to the sides.
So they have weddings here?
We have weddings here, yes. So some imagining this person decided this little corner of the cave here would make a good wedding chapel, and they decided to have the first wedding known in 1935. We have about 400 weddings since then, so how's that day? And so the traditional chair-type stalactites that you think are the really hanging types, we have some of those in the last room, but we don't have many in our cave here just because of the shape of the cave. We have really high ceilings and steep walls, so that water and mineral calcite is deposited along the walls rather than hanging in carrot-type formations. In most cases anyway, just because again of the shape of our cave. I also want to point out another formation that's under this ledge here, if you want to follow me and crouch down. These are small soda straws. They're called soda straws. Along this edge and then start to drip and start forming these formations. So these actually are about 85 years old. Pretty old for such a small formation, huh? So that gives you a little bit of an appreciation for how old some of these larger formations must be, just knowing how slowly this process if we're real quiet, we can try something to see if we can hear that sort of resonance that's created down in this space. And it's created because of the shape of the passageway. Another thing that's kind of interesting to note, in 1934, when the cave opened, the tour only went this far because this was actually filled with mud, this next passageway. So it took them until the next year to get that mud all excavated out of here so that then the tour could continue on to where we'll be traveling today. So, all right, also watch your heads if you're taller, it's pretty low down here. We'd probably be able to successfully create the resonance, but we don't have a deep male voice probably in this group. So if you're all really quiet, you might be able to hear the resonance that I'll try to create here. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah. If we want to try it, I can count to 3 and then we can do that at the same time. It doesn't take much of a hit. I just kind of cup my hand and hit just a little bit off center here. So I'll count to 3, and if we want to try it and just listen to see how we do with our resonance, all right? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it kind of has a nice little resonation behind it there. All right, let's let everybody catch up again here. All right, now if you'll follow my flashlight up behind your heads here, you'll see our first cephalopod fossil. Of course, water carved out these passageways, so we only see about half of it because the other part of it was eroded away. But that is basically kind of our ancient relative of a modern day squid. That's a cephalopod. You can see it up there. Imaginative today too, but they had pretty good imaginations and they named a bunch of the different formations in here. I'll share some of the names with you. This little passage here where the water's carved a little bit more deeply into the wall, they call Paul Bunyan's bed. So, yeah, so some of those old names stick around. It's a good sort of landmark for us. Or a formation anyway that looks like one.
Yeah. Yeah, this is where
there's another formation that does have a name that we have already. I'll be sure to point it out when we get up.
It was just like,
I'm going to stop you right here, and if we can all kind of gather around, there's a formation on the left here that I'd like to show you. Yep, these are ribbon stalactites. Again, of course, that calcium carbonate is being deposited along the wall here. And naturally, it's sort of a creamy color. Sometimes there's a little bit more yellow or orange to it, depending on what other minerals are present. So this one's got a little bit of color to it.
You know like those ivy like creeper plants things?
Yeah.
These kind of look like those.
Have that appearance. I've heard people say they kind of look like veins. Sounds like we might have a group that's on their way back up and out. So if you guys will hang to this back wall here, I think we're going to have that first group.
How's your day?
Look at say Jesus! This is the best thing that's
Have fun in your team spaces.
R.I.P.
Was it fun?
It was wet.
Was it fun?
really wet.
Oh God.
I don't feel so.
Hey, dog.
Hello.
Hi. How are the tight spaces?
They're very, very tight. So we didn't die. Have fun.
I am disappointed.
Alright, right up here, I still have more to show you here once we get these guys past. And if you could turn your phone lights off so we don't blind anyone, that'd be helpful. Okay, so again, we were talking about this calcite, or this calcium carbonate deposit on the wall here, this ribbon stalactite. What's also kind of interesting about it is if I switch to a black light, it sort of glows, right? You see this kind of green appearance to it. Isn't that beautiful? All right, the other interesting thing is that calcite is also phosphorescent. So if you watch closely here.
Oh wow, it's an F.
Can you all see that? That it holds on to that glow for a little bit.
See on camera.
Everyone get a chance to see it?
Yeah.
Yep. Is it only UV or can it do?
Yep, it's the black light. So the energy from the black light, it's much stronger. That calcite absorbs it and then it sort of releases it, but a little bit more slowly so our eyes sort of see that afterglow.
That's what England uses in their money.
Oh yeah? Interesting. Well,
And
anyway,
when the Germans
so that's
tried to
one sort of
crash the plane,
interesting thing about the calcium
they
carbonate.
put a black loaf right over it. England thought it was perfect.
I just want to briefly tell you about the formation on the left here. Just as we pass on by, this is formed by whirlpool action. So there's been water passing through this main passageway where we're walking. But there are other cracks that have water to more or less degrees at various times in history, also sending water into this pathway. And when water collides like that, it can start to swirl. Think about a hurricane. The center of the storm is very weak, but the outer edge has a lot of energy. So the center here, this limestone piece that remains, just wasn't eroded in the same way because it didn't have much activity at the center of that whirlpool. We'll see a few more of those formations up ahead and on our left, so just make sure you're kind of watching for those circular carved out formations.
Here's some more like your paper stuff.
We've got a very nice drapery stalactite on our right if you look up, and also if you take a look down, you'll see the stalagmites growing back up from the wall here. But it just kind of has the shape of a skeleton arm, so we like to point that out to the kids. Also, you'll notice that this stone here is a little out of place. When you come up a little further, you'll be able to see where it came from, up top there. Happened a long, long time ago. It did not fall straight down, so we know that that did fall, and there was still water in these passageways. It would have sort of wafted its way down in what different position that it is currently in. You can see where that came from up there?
Yep.
All right. Up ahead. If you've got a good imagination, you might see the elephant's head. Again, there's the ear over here and the trunk here. This is a dormant flow stone, so there isn't any water actively forming that anymore, but if you've got a good imagination, you might see the elephant's head. It's a really low ceiling through there, so do watch your head. Some of you may bump it, so just watch your head. Also, it's a narrow pathway, so you're going to want to be single file up here and be especially careful on your left side. There's an active flow stone, so please do your best not to bump the walls through here, okay? And watch your steps.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna put my head on that if you want to go to that.
Oh! Picture that.
Wonderful. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Great. Any questions for me? Not yet. All right. Just want to let you know what we're going to see up ahead. It's going to continue to be narrow. I'm gonna point out some fossils, but I'll only be able to point them out to the people directly behind me. So please do your best to point them out to the people behind you, okay? So that everyone can see these fossils. So just up here, we're gonna first come across a side view of a fisherite fossil. It's not a fish. It was actually classified as an algae by someone named Fisher. So that's how it gets its name, fisherite. Pretty original, huh? So if you think of a lily pad, it's a circular plant essentially. So from a top view, it's circular, but it's also compressed and sort of flat. So like a lily pad would be. So this first view that we see is a side view, a cross section, and it looks a little bit like a snake skin. So I'll point it out to the people behind you, and then as we continue along, look for them in the walls on either side of you because they are all through this next hallway. And I'll also point out a top view to you as well that you can point out to the people behind you. All right? So go ahead and follow me. All right, so here's our side view of the fisherite.
Oh,
See
wow.
in there?
Oh, yes. I made these.
So please point this out to the ones behind you. It looks
Right
like
top view right here. It's really big right there, right there.
I like how they said it was really wet down here. It's not really.
modern day flashlights.
Yeah. That would be cool.
Waiting for everyone to catch up. So if you all come forward, everyone will be able to fit into this space so I can reach my voice to the back. Almost got everyone. All right, I can hear that other group ahead of us, so at some point we will meet them. So again, be sure to share the space. If we all stay to one side, probably the right side, that'll allow them to pass us on our lefts there a little bit more easily. Not sure exactly where we'll meet them, but it may be a narrow point, so just do your best to, if you're in a wider spot, maybe hang in that wider spot while they all go by. So they'll be coming back here at some point. But the next section that we're gonna be entering here, we call the Grand Canyon, and we call it that because it's got very canyon-like walls, very narrow, but also high ceilings. And it's also our longest stretch that's sort of straight. So we've got about a 400-foot stretch here that we call the Grand Canyon. The ceilings overhead right now are about 60 feet above us, so pretty high, so be looking up and around you. And then there are some points where the ceiling's about 100 feet overhead. And it's not because the ceiling's getting higher, it's because we're continuing to descend. So I said we were at 120 feet down when we were on the bridge over the waterfall. At the very last room, we'll be about 200 feet underground. So just for an idea. So while you're looking up and around, also be sure you're looking down once in a while because we do have some staircases. So there's another whirlpool formation. Another whirlpool formation where there had been a crack with water coming in and whatnot.
Way much more bigger right there,
And then I want to point out a fossil here, so we'll wait for everyone to catch up to us. That's a pretty good flashlight. All right, I'm going to be pointing out a fossil here on your left, and I'm going to send a flashlight back, so be sure that you pass the flashlight back, and if you can keep the light on the fossil as you do that, it'll be easier for the person behind you to find the fossil. It's a trilobite. These live for many millions of years. The most similar modern day relative of this would be a crayfish or a lobster. You can sort of see the tail, yep, curled into the rock there. So this is a trilobite, and I'll send this flashlight back.
No, I'm not even cold.
Do you know what the temperature is down here?
It's probably 50.
It's about 48 year round. Do you know why that is? Yeah, but it is actually affected by up top. So the ambient temperature in the cave system is basically the same as the average year-round temperature above ground. So average year-round up there is about 48. That's why our cave stays at about 48, because the rock insulates so well. It just maintains that temperature. The ambient temperature in a cave in, say, Australia is probably closer to 70 degrees or something like that, just because of the average air temperature up top versus what it is here. Up ahead again, ceilings are really high, so be sure to look up and around you. We're in kind of a really neat crevice here, or joint underground. But there are some staircases, so please do watch your step and use the handrails as we go along. This is not limestone like the rest of the layers around us. This is a layer of chert, C-H-E-R-T. It's silica based. It fractures with really sharp edges like glass does, because that's also silica based. It was a really useful stone for creating things like tools and weapons. Native Americans often used this material for those things. It is also found in the limestone bluffs up and around our area as well. So you do find pockets of this chert, and in stream beds and that sort of thing as well. It's also useful because it's similar to flint in that you can create a spark from it. So a really useful mineral that we have a layer of here in the cave. Up here the ceilings do become low, so do watch your heads. We're likely to meet that other group pretty soon as well.
I don't care if I get tripped on.
Well, just saying, you're in the wet section, so we're gonna all try to fit in this space. It's possible that they're gonna try to come up past us. So let's try to stay. All right, let's keep to the right. Aim parallel. We've got another group passing us here. If you can get up into this large space, it might be. Section of the cave, this room and the next room. We'll see a lot more formations in this last room. Some of the traditional carrot type stalactites. We'll see ribbons, also called cave bacon. We'll see some longer soda straws. There are also some draperies. So be sure to be looking up and around when we get into this next room. Also, we're in this crosser layer of limestone. Now you can see up here that it's a little bit more orange in color, and it doesn't have those pock marks like the Stuart Hill layer above it had. We call this the Cathedral Dome. This is another dome room similar to the Waterfall Dome room. And again, carved out by that swirling action. You can see there are a couple of different cracks up here that water would have been flowing into this space from, as well as the main passageway. So that created that whirlpool effect that carved out a circle here. So again, we've got some stairs. It's dripping, it's wet. Oh, question I see.
Does the cave ever get flooded again?
That's a fantastic question. We don't like to use the F word, but it is a reality. So We do have water levels that rise in the cave, and they rise in these lower levels. So we do know what to look for. We know which formations will start to drip more actively if we should be thinking that the water is going to rise to a level that we have to close off a section of the cave without, we don't want people to be down there, of course, when the water level does rise. And when big rain events come, 10 plus inches at a time, quickly, the natural drainage of the cave can't keep up with the rain that's coming in from the watershed around us, because we have really porous limestone, right? It infiltrates quite quickly. So it's not the torrent of water that people think of when they think of flooding. It's a very, very slow rising from these lower levels where the water already is. You'd have to have a time-lapse camera on it to actually see it rising. But it does rise, and it has actually risen. If let's see, with this big snow event that we had, or all the snow we had this winter, right? Just a really snowy winter. All that melting in March, we did have the water levels rise. So of course we weren't open at that time, so it was no problem. But we would have been underwater at that time when that was melting.
We would have been underwater right now.
Yep, you'd be swimming. You'd be swimming. And you can see that there's mud on the walls, sediment and silt. That comes in with the water when the levels do rise.
How high was the water?
It would have, I'm trying to think here. There's a high water mark and a couple of other passageways that show us where the water does reach. But I think this room would have been entirely full because the level does continue to go up and we came down some nice staircases. So it has come up pretty high in some events. 2008 was our biggest event. It was really extreme. It was 10 plus inches and I would forget, something like 3 hours. The water does go down again pretty quickly. So usually it'll recede again within a day. So quite a lot of volume of water comes in, but again, it drains pretty quickly.
Do you guys take all the lights out?
That's a good question as well. Thinking about flooding and also the infrastructure, right? We have had to rewire things on a number of occasions when the water levels have come up. When we leave the cave, when the cave's closed for the winter, we do replace all of these lower level bulbs with old dead bulbs just to be a placeholder, so that when water comes up here, it doesn't fill these fixtures and fill them with mud. So we just put the bulbs in that we know are bad, so we don't have to replace bulbs every time. So good questions, really good questions. Okay, up here on the right is where you're going to stay the most dry. So if you follow me on the right side, you'll probably avoid the big soaker that is on the left. If you really want to get wet, feel free to take the left side. Also, there's one last low spot, so do
I'm
watch
probably
your
gonna go
head.
to the left.
Jumping around, talking about lots of things.
What is this? Why did I not delete this off my phone? Why? What actually is... I honestly don't know what this is. Okay, what is this too? What? Oh my god. These are probably the worst pictures I've ever taken. Okay, continue with the video.
Questions for me. Also, if you look back here, follow my flashlight, there's a small column. This is when the stalactite and the stalagmite join, right? It's a small one, but they have reached each other. All right, are you interested in complete darkness?
Yeah. Sure.
Do a short period with complete darkness? All right, for that to happen, I need you to do a few things for me, all right? Listen up. If you can be sure your camera or flashlight, phones, and all those things are completely off, because it is not complete darkness. The fun thing about that is that you're temporarily blind, but you're also temporarily invisible. Nobody else could see you, right? You were invisible. This is officially the end of the tour. Again, my name is Amy. Thank you so much for coming to visit us. I'm going to make sure that I've got an adult leading the way, and then I'm going to follow you to make sure everyone gets out of here safely. Take your time on the way out. Watching your head on the low spot and in there.
like, subscribe, share some awesome videos. Peace.